Hi, and welcome to the Diablo podcast, your home for Diablo diehards, tryhards, casual, and hardcore alike. I am your host, Xanth, and today I'm joined by my only co-host, Herbert.
Hi.
There it is. It's just the two of us, and we got something special. Nimeball's on vacation. He's out there
Lucky
with
man.
some gorgeous frozen drink in his hand, living his best life. And I'm envious. I think that's awesome. But I got to have somebody here with me. I got to have somebody to talk to about Diablo, and I got to have somebody to kind of take a hosting reign because I'm going to do something I never do on this show. I'm going to ask to be front and center because I've got stuff to talk about. So the past week, I've been playing Vessel of Hatred. I've been living in Nahatu. I've been Spiritborn. We're going to talk about what's that like. We're going to talk about new endgame systems. And more importantly, I think we're going to talk about, is it worth your money? Is it worth your time? And I'm just giddy. I'm giddy to talk about it because I haven't been able to. We've been under NDA. I can't talk to anybody. I've been able to talk to people who are playing, but that's not a lot. That's not a lot of people. And they're not all like hardcore Diablo people like we are, where I can just like geek out and just be super excited. Um, So I'm going to turn the reins over to you, Eric Words, and I'm going to let you kind
Sure.
of go, and I will try to answer everything I can as we're on the precipice of release in just a few days.
Sure. Well, and first and foremost, I just want to say I'm jealous, incredibly jealous. Obviously, super excited to jump in myself. You mentioned you've had it for about a week, which is pretty awesome. What would you say? Well, I guess we can come to that later. Did you dive right into the druid, or did you immediately go Spiritborn and just try the new hotness? Like, what was your thing there?
So yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, I've been maining a druid since we started. Since there was a beta I could get into, I wanted to play druid, and I
Yep.
went completely counter to that. I figured I'm trying to do everything I can in this truncated schedule. So if I go and play something I'm already familiar with, I've robbed myself of a 1 to 60 experience with a new class. Because
Mm.
you kind of only want to do the story once. I want to go and try and explore everything. And I should preface, I cannot talk about the story. And honestly, I wouldn't want to do that to
I
anybody
wouldn't let
anyway.
you. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want spoilers. Right? No, 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 no. No spoilers on this episode for sure.
Yeah, so we won't talk story spoilers. Sorry, I'm already tripping up because I'm just so excited and giddy to talk. Um, it's exciting. So we can't talk story, which is a good thing, and you guys all definitely need to go in and experience that for yourself. It's a journey. But I did decide, like, if I'm going to have this experience, I'm going to do it as a Spirit Born. It is a brand new class. I've been super excited to see what it feels like. So my Druid time has been very minimal. Once I felt like my Spirit Born had closed most of the doors that I needed to, I did jump into a Druid for a little bit. Um, and if I'm being honest, it doesn't feel as good anymore. The Spirit Born is such a well designed class. Um,
Mm.
Everything just clicks. Even when I was starting out, it felt good. It felt good to like just mess around, change up my core skills, try something different. I wanted to keep experimenting. Even later on, mixing things up, jumping from one build to another, was just fun and intuitive. Playing around with your different spirits that you happen to had. I rested with a Thorns Gorilla for a while. I
Okay.
was playing softcore the entire way through as well because I felt like playing hardcore would also be stupid. Uh, I don't need to waste my time dying all that much. So I was playing softcore, but Thorns Gorilla was super exciting. It was nice and defensive. It was able to kind of get me to where I needed to feel comfortable, like make a transition into a late torment. And then I was able to switch it up to a Jaguar Centipede. Uh, no, Gorilla Centipede.
Okay.
Gorilla Jaguar. Sorry, Gorilla Jaguar is where I finally ended. But that was the part is you just kept swapping the whole time. You're like, oh, this feels cool. I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna try something else, and it never
Sure.
felt awful. Whatever combination you landed on, I didn't even get a chance to play that much with Eagle, um, but I had seen a bunch of different Eagle builds that were looking pretty cool as well. So like every direction of Spiritborn feels great, and I think that is something that they're going to have to go and work backwards on other classes because there are those dead ends in certain classes that you're just like, ah, this is kind of cool, but I can't make it work. Maybe I'll find that one item that does. Whereas the tree for the Spiritborn feels like pretty good on its own, and then you just get items that enhance it and just make it better.
Sure. No, and that's honestly Eagle Jaguar is kind of what I'm looking toward, like playing when I do playing Spiritborn, which I will after I level my sorcerer, of course. Must play the sorcerer first, but that's awesome. So, did you said you switched your builds kind of throughout playing, which makes a lot of sense. It's a new class, kind of trying some different things like that. What was your experience kind of going through the game with the new difficulty system? Did you find that it worked better than we had anticipated? Because I know we had some criticisms of that, right? Last episode that we were all on. But how did you feel about it while leveling?
It's funny because the new difficulty for the test build there was one issue is that we all started on attached to our accounts, but the thing that didn't roll over was our renown. So we didn't start with all those altars. So we were already behind when it came to skill points and when it came to different stats. So we were starting significantly weakened. So normal was kind of the only way you could start because even hard difficulty, you were just getting killed left and right. Um,
Sure.
Eventually, that does level out, uh,
Mm,
but normal through Penitent it just doesn't feel needed. Like it feels like it really you don't need four difficulties. It I think that should be truncated. Uh, the normal hard, the one before Penitent. I forget what it's called.
is it
Expert,
master, expert,
master, or
maybe?
yeah,
Yeah, one
something
of
like that.
those.
The two middle difficulties almost don't feel like they need to exist. Like you do normal until you can do Penitent, and then you do Penitent until you can do Torment. I would cut them. It
Mm,
just it didn't feel worth it. And the other part is the campaign is set up. So we're not going to talk story, but you go through the campaign and you're leveling pretty quickly. Like most of your levels come from the quests. So I would finish a
okay.
quest and I would get like 2 or 3 levels right there. I ended the campaign at level 49, and that was enough to kind of like do a few more quests, do some strongholds, and all right, now I'm knocking on the doors of torment. So
Sure.
if most of my levels are coming from quests, it doesn't matter if it's normal, experts, or whatever it is. I'm going to do it on the lowest and then transition. So I
Sure.
didn't find the normal difficulties to be needed. The torment difficulties did feel real though. They felt
Okay.
much more earned, where I
Well,
could.
how was the jump from penitent to torment? Because I know torment you couldn't jump into to what 60, is that right? And so 50 to 60, you're kind of stuck in that penitent range. And that felt a little odd, but how did that feel?
It it's not that bad because, like I said, I think I will probably just do the campaign to level characters now. One, it's pretty streamlined. It is not akin to the traditional story where we had to maneuver multiple acts. It's one act. You move around and you get some stuff along the way. So I will probably do that and like I said, bypass everything. So then when it comes time to make that 50 to 60, it's not that hard. You do a couple strongholds. Um, you, you go and explore the hell tides and all the other parts. and then you're at 60. Like it was not an arduous process that I was expecting. And by the time I hit Penitent, I then immediately did a tier 20 pit and was in Torment.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's what I anticipated. Kind of akin to like how World Tier 3 felt, where it felt like almost a truncated difficulty, right? Because you go through World Tier 3 pretty quickly. So as if you're experienced and been doing it for quite some time, you can get to World Tier 4 pretty fast. So cool. No, that's awesome. Well, I mean, it's good to hear that the Torment felt more weighty. So if you could dive into that a little bit, like, obviously there's 4 Torment difficulties with progressively, better rewards and more difficulty. And you said you felt the big difference between those difficulty levels.
Yeah, I mean, in the like the scaling upward to get there, um, like getting from Torment 1 to Torment 2, Torment 2 to 3, it took work, and I had to like go in and adjust. And the hardest part during this closed period is you still dealt with the iron and rawhide efficiencies. So crafting
Oh
your
wow.
gear was a major pain. Where like I would spend at least an hour or two like roaming Helltides just trying to grab iron so I could do some masterworking, um, which felt wrong. It's like I just need this. Um, I tried to do legions, but they weren't giving out the ore like they should. So it's okay. It's fine. But that definitely added an extra level of barrier, like, because like I needed to really maneuver my gear, and then if I changed my build, having to go and change all the aspects.
Redo it. Right. Right.
And it's like, well, I really like the build you suggested, but I can't do it because there's no way I could farm all the stuff I need to actually tackle it. But uh, each, each step that you kind of go up the torment ladder, what's nice is it doesn't feel like you have to. I entered into torment. I could go and I could cruise. I could kill literally every boss the same. Um, you could do your Lilith, you could do Duriel and Dariel, and every part of the end game is open to you. Nothing is restricted by any uh, particular torment. You just have a higher drop rate for um, those various good items in Torment 3, 4, whatever it might be. So
Sure.
if I want a better chance of something good dropping, obviously I can push into Torment 4. If I want to do things quick, I can stay in Torment 1. Um, it didn't. I guess I just didn't feel like I had to, and I think that was kind of refreshing. Will there always be a point where like, oh, I need to be doing Torment 4 or whatever it is? Sure, like if I'm really pushing for a particular item. But the other side of it is in Torment 1, I felt like I was still getting enough. And then with the changes that are coming into the patch that'll drop on day one, I think that'll be adjusted even further.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that'll be a whole another episode, most likely us diving into all that
Right,
stuff because that
right.
was crazy stuff today. So no, that's awesome. So I think that the biggest burning question that I have, specifically because I was pretty critical of it, is the rune word system and how that felt.
Um,
How much you got to toy and play with it, and how rare these runes were. Obviously, you've only had a week, but what was your experience with it so far?
so there were a couple problems with runes on the actual test. The Undercity wasn't dropping them like they should, which is really kind of meant to be one of the places that you could get the most runes. You,
Okay.
you would you would find them at the end of boss runs as well, but it's all random. Um, so I was able to put some together, but it was never anything that felt like it was super effective or that like I really really wanted to be using. There were certain runes I was chasing though, and I think like that was a fun element to have of like, oh, I want to get this. I'm gonna try and do the random craft, or I'm gonna run a few undercities in the hopes that it ends up popping or something to that effect. Um, so it had that appeal to it. There was like
Hmm.
I would. It's another thing that I'm kind of chasing. But the other side of it, like leveling early on, it would have been really cool to have a rune word in my gear but I just didn't find any. Maybe I had a rune that had you can create offering off of three uh, doing the same attack three times.
Mm,
Non. I think even core was fine. Same attack three times, you generate offering. That's great.
right.
What am I doing with that offering? Oh, I don't have a rune yet. 10, 15 levels later, oh, I've got another rune, but all that does is another way to get offering. Or maybe when I finally get one that uses offering, it's a cooldown reduction, which isn't super helpful. So I think it has a lot of potential, has a lot of cool promise down the way. It just wasn't great,
Sure.
but
No, you only had a week to
it's a
interact with it.
right. Oh,
Right. A week in Diablo 2, unless you're insanely lucky, you're not finding, a lot of great runes unless like, again, you're insanely lucky. So,
right, right.
um that's I was curious about how that felt kind of because I think one of the things that I always liked about rune words in Diablo 2 was that there was this progression to them as you were leveling, right? Like you could spend some serious time with Countess in normal Nightmare and Hell difficulties to kind of build up some lower runes, but that created some really impactful, items for you, rune words for you. I'd like to see hopefully that get a little better because I feel like a lot of the rune words that they've implemented or the combinations they've implemented are very end game focused or build enabling focused or build empowering focused, I should say, I guess. I'd like to see some ones that are, enable you more at a lower level, but we'll see how it all fits, right? When we got a little more time with it. So I
I
have
did
a big,
manage to get the Barbarian Earthquake one. And that was just kind of fun. It was like kind of fun to
yeah,
to go through and play, and suddenly like earthquakes are forming underneath me. It's like, all right, it'd be cool if it was something else, but like, hey, I didn't push that button, right? Something
right.
still happened as a result. That's cool. Or like I think I had one for meteor would come down. That's cool. Yeah. Again, not game changing. I didn't get like super giddy over a rune drop. But down the road, I think it has. I'm more excited about it as a potential system down the road than I am about its current implementation. I don't hate it, right?
Yeah,
And as I said, there were still things I was hoping I would be able to find, rallying cry, right? But
right.
I just didn't find that.
Sure, sure. So hard hitting question for you. Hard hitting question for you. Which mercenary was your favorite, and why was it the cursed child?
Oh, I didn't like him at all.
Oh, I hate
Um,
you. Okay, that's fair. I haven't
so
played it yet, so
it, it had, I guess like I didn't have a strong opinion of him. I was a big Subo fan. The Drunken
okay,
Archer has
okay.
a nice feature where by having him as your main mercenary, he will highlight things on your map for you. He will tell you where enemies are, as well as different nodes. Like if you're looking for ore, as I was for far
Ah,
too
so
long.
you're hunting iron, Okay, got it. Okay,
Um,
interesting.
so that was a nice little feature to have with him in tandem with I had the Berserker Crone as my reinforcement. So every now and then when I was doing an attack, she would come in whirlwind. It was nice. A nice little bit of
Sure.
functionality. What I loved about the system is that the mercenaries the entire time they have their own little reputation that you are gaining like their XP after they've filled out their skill sheet. You keep gaining favor just like we have with our different reputation vendors over the course of seasons,
Yeah.
and they give you currency. And that currency you can take to the hideout, or it's called the pit, right? Not the pit, the den. You
Yep.
go to the den and you trade in that currency for things. I would frequently be cycling through the vendor to get boss materials. I could buy boss materials right, just a random cash right from that vendor. And on cycles, it wasn't every time, but like a 1 in 4 chance to get a bunch of boss materials right there, or different aspects that maybe I was lacking, especially in the early game of like, oh, I need more defensive aspects, I need more utility aspects. I can grab those, or maybe I just need 5 or 6 legendaries to sacrifice so that I can get a bunch of ore so I can craft the things that I need. Um, well, I may have done that at several points, but that alone was just it's like you take a nice little bit of RNG and you reward people for doing what they're already doing. I've got these mercenaries. I'm fighting hordes of enemies, and I'm also getting just a little bit more on top of it that I can take back, and I get to use in a manner that I want. I get to choose the reward for the thing I've already done. Um, that was fun. Even when you're reaching those top ends of Paragon, like they're still getting levels. You're still getting those that particular currency, and I'm getting more stuff. Like it's just a nice little addition on top of what's already a pretty solid thing.
That's awesome. That sounds cool. I like the idea of the den. I'm excited. I always like little. I mean, like World of Warcraft had like little class halls in Legion that were super cool. I really enjoyed those. Now you mentioned earlier the Undercity, right? And I know that this is something that I'm super excited to dive into. It seems like a feature that is made for me. And it feels like a traditional like dungeon and crawl, which is what most of us old school Diablo heads is looking for out of Diablo 4. That maybe we don't feel like we've gotten yet. There's a lot of great content and a lot of things to do, and Helltide is probably the most impactful or favorite feature that keeps evolving and getting better every single season. How did the Undercity feel? How much time did you spend there? What were your thoughts on that overall?
So I think like the Undercity was the place I was rushing the most. Like I wanted to get
Okay.
there as quickly as possible because it's new. Like there are two new additions. We have the Dark Citadel and we have the Undercity, and the Undercity
Mm-hmm.
is the only one I can solo. Um, so I went to the Undercity pretty pretty quickly. Um, and it once it was unlocked, I started to try and play with it as best I could to understand it. But as bare bones, you enter in, you have a timer. If the timer goes up, it's over, right? Um, you extend the timer by killing certain diseased monsters, and then you are purging different altars to collect that particular spirit. There are four different check marks of spirit that you fill up, and there are three levels to the Undercity, that you happen to be in. Uh, so over those three levels, the first level, clear the altars, kill the diseased, and extend your timer. Find the portal, go to level two. Rinse and repeat until you fill that meter up to have a better bonus at the end. Then once you reach that third portal, click on it. Maybe you're rushed. Like when I first started playing, I couldn't fill that meter at all. I was just trying to rush to the portal, like maybe get to the boss with like one of the bars filled, and maybe my rewards a little better as a result of that. Um, and sometimes it wasn't. It's because Undercity is still being tuned, and we were told that right away from when we played. Like, hey, it works, but the rewards are going to be lessened. This is being addressed day one. But the
Mm.
boss fights in there feel better than um, a Nightmare Dungeon. They're a little bit
Okay.
more complicated. Obviously, just like with everything, you scale your numbers high enough, you steamroll it. But in those early levels, I was getting killed left and right because they could just hit like a truck.
Sure.
Um, so that was exciting. It was exciting to have more complicated mechanics, more things happening than just here's the blood bishop.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
he's back in this dungeon. And then each of those bosses is you go through a story to kind of unlock it, and each one of those bosses is more tied to that. So the also you're like, oh, okay, I get why you're here. Not again, here's the blood bishop. Um, where it gets fun, like because I think on the surface level, you're just like, okay, I'm just going around, I'm filling up these bars, I fight a boss. How is that not just Nightmare Dungeons,
Mm.
right? Because that's the same thing
Sure.
when you're in the end game and you go to um, and you go to the Undercity, you're going to click on it and you're going to be able to put in an offering. So the offering is going to tailor what kind of rewards you're going to get. Maybe you need boss mats. Maybe you need runes. By doing that, you might suffer a penalty. It might decrease your overall time. It might decrease the amount of time that you get from killing monsters. Who knows what the penalty might be, but you are going to have some sway on it. Then you can also slide on over to a bargain option. And in this, you get to affect the outcome of the items that are going to drop at the end. Maybe I'm looking for items that have skill ranks. Well, that's going to cost me X amount of obols or X amount of forgotten souls. And that's also going to go into affecting the outcome at the end. I'm now bargaining and maybe taking again another penalty with what the final outcome of those rewards is going to be. But I'm getting essentially deterministic crafting in Diablo around the loot. But instead of me just sitting there at an anvil trying to create an item, I'm going to create an item by killing monsters.
Interesting. Okay.
And that was the coolest part because I was looking for, at the time, gloves with plus to core skills. That's what I wanted.
Okay.
I don't have any iron or rawhide to craft that. So what am I going to do? Uh, well, I'm going to run the Undercity. I'm going to select that bargain. And it's not a guarantee it's going to drop, but I know I'm getting at least a few items at the end that are going to have those attributes. And maybe I'm going to get what I need. Maybe I'm not, but I'm going to keep running it until I do. And that was exciting. I know at the end there's going to be a chance of the thing that I want because I'm making that happen. I'm determining what's going to happen. Maybe I don't want class ranks. Maybe I just want class uniques. That's an option. Maybe again, I
Mm.
just look for boss mats. That's an option. Like I get to tailor exactly what the loot's going to be and then run it and see what happens. That is pulling that loot lever every single time, and it felt so good that I'm definitely going to be living in the Undercity for a while.
That's awesome because that's honestly like what's got me most excited about the expansion was the Undercity feature. Like it sounded really cool. It sounded very, very much something that I think the game has needed for a while. So that's exciting to hear that it's yeah, exciting to hear that that you felt that way. And so, like you mentioned in the end game, did you do much Undercity while you were leveling as well?
In terms of like Paragon, 1 to 100, or
Well, yeah. I mean, so like fresh into the. I mean, Undercity that unlocks once you get to the end game. Once you get to tournament difficulty, is that right, or is it unlocked before that?
it actually will unlock before Torment.
Before
Um,
tournament. Okay, so did you do it at all before you went into tournament difficulty, or did you just stick with
I kind of
world
stuck with
stuff?
I kind of stuck with what I knew.
Okay.
Once you finish the campaign, what they'll do is they send you on different quests to like explore the different parts of Endgame, which is a brilliant idea for people who are coming back after a year because, you know, Helltides are significantly different.
Sure.
The
Significantly different. Yeah.
Infernal Hordes didn't exist.
True.
The pit didn't exist. So they want you to go on these quests to explore and understand the different endgame mechanics. So I went and just was doing that until I hit 60 and then pushed myself through the pit. And then the Undercity and Infernal Hordes. Obviously, Infernal Hordes were really good for leveling too. Like that was a fun place to be, and they're still pretty rewarding. It has changed a little bit, but I found myself much more enamored with the Undercity than Infernal Hordes. And obviously I've just been Infernal Horded out. Still played it a
Sure.
bunch, but the Undercity and the knowing what loot was going to drop was far more addictive.
Sure. Yeah. No, it sounds like it. That's really cool. So did you get to spend much time in the Dark Citadel? Did you obviously
Ooh.
that is the big co-op like experience. The one that's got me kind of side eyeing a little bit as someone who is a fan of MMOs and plays a lot of World of Warcraft. I don't
Oh, I see you
know.
on. I know you're wowing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, Mage's got a mage, right? So, but I'm curious, how it felt. I mean, you played World of Warcraft, but you're not like you don't play a lot of MMOs, right? How did it feel? Did you get a chance to play with it at all?
So it was again the goal with getting this access was to try to do everything. Um,
Yeah,
because I want to be able to. like in having these conversations, like be able to definitively say like it's if it's worth someone's time. And I don't think you can do that if you haven't played everything.
Mm.
Um, so first, Party Finder. Party Finder is it seems to work. It does not work with a group of 100 people who may not be aware of its existence and might not be looking for the Dark Citadel or a party at that time. You know, you've got
Sure.
100, 200 some people for different news organizations out there just,
Trying
playing
to
by
test the game.
themselves and
Yeah.
not thinking. I know IGN had a group do the Dark Citadel together. They're all in house, right? Like that's easy. Like, hey, we're all going to go do this. They're not using Party Finder. So I had to spam Discord and general chat, get one other person
Okay.
to join me,
Okay.
but we did it. We made it happen. Surprisingly, a necromancer. I wouldn't have thought anybody was leveling one of those during this time period, but one
I would have played
person,
sorcerer, so I feel that energy. Whoever you are, Mr. Necromancer out there. Yeah.
uh, yeah, so good on them. Actually, it was somebody over from Blizz Planet. I know
Okay.
uh, they're on my friends list now, and maybe we'll play again. But we
Awesome.
we went in and we did all three wings of the Dark Citadel.
Okay.
Um, I'm not going to spoil any of what's in there
Okay.
because I think it is a fun experience to figure it out on your own. There were a lot of moments and mechanics for these fights that we had to stop and just, we're just typing out because we weren't using voice chat.
Right.
Because I found him in general chat, right? This wasn't we
Right.
weren't
Right.
Discord friends. I just think of like, okay, how are we supposed to do this? What are we supposed to do? Because it is we cleared the whole thing with just two people. You don't need any more than that. At the time, I was Paragon 235, I think, and then he was like Paragon 120. It was not like it was on regular torment as well. We weren't anything higher than that, but the barrier didn't seem to be too high
Mm.
in and of itself. And there's some danger to this, having only done one Dark Citadel. You have to wonder, is it just the novelty of it that made it exciting? But I genuinely had a good time working together with another person playing Diablo on a shared objective. That wasn't just how
Smash
quickly can
enemies.
we, yeah,
Right.
like that's a part of it. But then you get to these bosses, they have these different phases that require each person to do something different. And I'm going to say the word different too much, where it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's different. Um,
We're
there,
trying to not spoil here, team. So just so
right,
everyone knows. Right.
there was so there was one fight in which you had like a spirit realm of sorts. So one person had to stay on the upper realm, and the other person had to go into the spirit realm, and you're both fighting simultaneously while activating a few things. And then the outside person had to activate the portal for the inside person to come back. And then the inside person had to bring something with them to continue the fight up top. And then you had to keep doing that through like two phases. But like figuring that out as you went was super exciting. And then I was also like, I was excited to go back, like having known it, like to know what to do on the next time. Um, because the cosmetic rewards were enticing. There's been a complaint about Diablo for a while about having cosmetics that you can't earn. Well,
Earn. Right.
here they are right in front of you. You can go do them.
Mm.
And then, there was loot. I would argue loot itself probably could be bumped up a little bit within the Citadel for the amount of time that you're doing. I would say through all three wings with multiple deaths and figuring things out was maybe about 2 hours,
Okay.
maybe a little under that. But again, we died a bunch. We were trying to figure things out.
And
We
you're
were going
figuring it out.
slow.
Right. Right.
I would imagine. that timetable is significantly shortened with experience, clear communication, and just a general knowledge of those fights. Um, but it was a lot of fun, and I would love to see more of stuff like that. I know it's going to ruffle some feathers, that there's something that you need another person to play with for. I know there are going to be people who want to do it alone. Uh,
Yeah,
it's not something I would say I would do on hardcore by myself with a rando.
a lot of faith you're putting in a random person. Yeah,
I will say again, when people see it, I think you will understand why I won't do it on hardcore with random people. You have to put some trust in some other people, and I just don't know if I could yet. The other part
yeah,
of it, I think, is also knowing that there's nothing in the Citadel that I couldn't get somewhere else
sure.
outside of just the
The
experience
cosmetics.
and the cosmetics. Um, and so I'm not super broken up about that, but I will definitely be doing it. I could see it being a weekly thing. You do get a weekly cash at the end of it, so yeah, I think I could easily end up going that route.
Now, do you imagine? I mean, obviously, without going into too much detail, but a little bit of detail. Like you had it for a week, right? 6 weeks in, 10 weeks in, 15 weeks in. Are you still doing the Citadel every week? You think?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. I mean, does the novelty wear off? I mean, with everything, it probably does.
Sure.
If the rewards are good enough and the cosmetics are exciting, I could easily justify doing it. Just to, if anything, once a week, and then I get my fancy tiger, I get my fancy sword, I get my fancy whatever. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And you're
Sure.
also like the entire time too with the new Paragon system, you're getting if you walk away with no gear improvements, you got a little bit of XP. Your mercenaries got a little bit of XP, which also got you a little bit of coin that you can use for boss materials or whatever else you might want. So
In the
there's
den,
no
right? The bargaining.
right.
Yeah.
There's
Or the
there's no
favor. Sorry.
there's no wasted time. Like I think that's was one of the nice experiences of the expansion. I don't ever feel like my time is being wasted on anything now because there are multiple things that are happening that I can still point to and say that, yeah, but I got this. Yeah, I got a little bit more XP. And even if I like from the 239 to 240 took forever, but I made it. And along the way, I also got a bunch of coins to turn into boss materials, which I was then able to go and run those bosses. So it just never felt bad. Like I didn't have the I'm going to keep running Infernal Hordes. I'm not getting XP. I'm not getting gear, but I got to keep doing it until maybe I get one thing. Maybe I get something.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it
did
feels good.
you mentioned it a couple of times now, and I am kind of curious. Obviously, huge revamp with the expansion to the Paragon system. Huge revamp. At least it feels huge from the outside looking in. When you got it, one you did. How did it feel going through it? Was it? Did you think it was these are positive changes? Did what were your thoughts overall on the new Paragon system?
I think the Paragon system is still the Paragon system.
Sure.
The limiting to 5 boards is very weird to play with, right? Where you're just like, oh, we're locked in, we're done. That's it. Um, but I still hate respecing it. Uh, it still doesn't feel as much of a meaningful choice. But like once you're locked in, once you got your build kind of going at the, 100, 150 mark, it's not awful. You're just grabbing a couple slots along the way.
Sure.
when I'm on from 239 to 240 at that 240th Paragon point, was I like, all right, I can
240 is
finally.
the top Paragon point. That's the most you can
No,
get,
no.
right?
So a 330 is the top. Like I didn't have the mental energy to try and push for that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I love Diablo. I don't myself.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
So
right,
real quick,
right,
just
right.
to clarify, because now 60 is the top level that you hit, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
60 is max level, and after that you just grind to get Paragon, but you don't gain levels.
correct.
Okay, gotcha. Just wanted to
Yeah,
clarify that
so
to make sure.
you cap out at 60, unlike
Mhm.
at 50, and then you're still moving to 100, but getting 4 Paragon away. Uh,
Right.
you stop at 60, and then every level you get 1 Paragon point. So then you get Paragon 1, Paragon 2, Paragon 3. Um, and yeah, I mean it feels pretty normal. The first 20 Paragons go real quick. And that would another one that would have been nice, having the renown kind of set up where it would automatically
Sure.
click in and you would start with your 20 some points, but it was fine. Uh, it Again, it's still not my favorite system. I would love a revamp down the road to make it just a little bit more meaningful. But once you're locked in with your 5 boards and you're just kind of choosing things along the way, again, my character got a little bit better because of it. It's also, again, account wide. So if I want to rush through that campaign again, bump a druid up to 60, then I've got 240 Paragon points immediately. And I'm not,
Mm.
you know, playing catch up to get to 100, which may or may not happen. But no, I hit 60, I get everything again, and I'm hitting the ground running.
Interesting. So, so I know you spent a lot of time with your Spiritborn, right? But you did say you dabbled a bit on the Druid. Did you get to try out any of the new abilities for the Druid and new skills that they unlocked with the new 10 levels?
So no, so I did a lot of Druid PTR testing. Um,
Okay.
Shortly, like just a few weeks ago. So I
Yeah.
wasn't feeling like I needed to. I didn't care for um, our Stoneburst, and after playing Spiritborn, the Druid just doesn't.
Ain't hitting the same.
I think.
Are
I
you are
think.
you main swapping? Are you main swapping?
I think I might.
Oh no. Okay. I mean, hey.
It just it felt so good. It
Yeah.
felt so good. I want my Druid to be great. I do.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
just. It's just not there yet. And I think
Sure.
taking a season or so off and manning a Spiritborn is going to be my goal. Um, that's the one downside of having this limited time is just not having enough time with every class to truly say how they feel.
Mm.
I think everyone's mileage with Vessel might vary because of that. Um, it's going to be a little different, but obviously the newest class is going to shine just a little bit brighter because everything's new. And we kind of talked about that in the last podcast that you know uh, you get one new skill, the Spiritborn gets all new skills, so
Right. Right. It is the
it
new
feels different.
hotness.
Oh, and it
Yeah.
it is so good.
It is so good. That's awesome, man. I mean, that sounds great. I think that the thing that's got me most excited about the expansion, I don't think I've been shy about this at all, is not the systems. I mean, Undercity seems really cool, but not like the Dark Citadel, the new systems, the Paragon revamp, the mercenaries, all that's really cool. I'm a lore guy and I love the story. And I know you can't talk about it, talk spoilers, right? But all I want to ask you is how do you feel coming out of a very solid Diablo 4 story with, I mean, arguably one of the most robust and complex stories that they've told in a Diablo game. It was amazing. I loved it. I know you enjoyed it quite a bit as well. Do you feel like it was on par? Did it enhance that experience and make it better? Maybe was it quite as good? What was your thought?
Ooh.
Without spoilers, obviously, no spoilers.
I think yeah, it's hard without spoilers. I think the story is good. It
Okay.
is clear and concise. It has good characters. It has some nostalgia. Obviously, it's going to have nostalgia. It has to have nostalgia. We're
Right. We're going
in
to Karast, right?
yeah, we're in good old Act 3, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Nahatu.
I let's play with numbers here. If I were to rank the Diablo stories, right,
Okay,
by numerically, Diablo 4's story, that was a 9 out of 10, right?
sure.
I would say Vessel's like a 7 out of 10. It's still
Okay,
good. I
sure.
think it's also an expansion, right?
Right, it's not a full game, right? It's just an expansion. Sure, sure, sure.
It's an expansion. I think maybe I just had some different expectations. I'm looking forward to doing a spoiler cast. I'm looking forward to doing a spoiler cast with you and Nineball to talk about it because I'm
Yeah.
curious where you guys are going to fall on the story. Um, but I liked it. I definitely enjoyed what happened. I think there's some moments that people are going to be upset, and I'm curious where those are going to be for people because I could see those moments being different.
Oh boy. Okay. Okay.
Um, and I'm just curious where they are and where people get upset because
Sure.
I guarantee there's moments that people are going to be divided on being upset, and that's all I want to say. I
Okay.
let's let that lie.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
But overall,
Yeah.
no,
That's
it is good. It is a good story.
well. You said numbers here, right? So if you said Diablo 4 is 9 out of 10, where would you put Diablo 2? Diablo 2 story, or sorry, Diablo 3 story.
Ooh, Diablo 3,
Yeah, like we talking like 1, 2, 3 out of 10, somewhere around there. We talking higher than that?
5 out of 10. I mean, like I just like
Okay.
it
But now Reaper of Souls story.
I because it was still just too much like there's some good world building that happens in that, but it's also the power scaling that happens at the end and the
Yeah.
lack of yeah, I don't know. I don't want to do all of them. I just want to give you a number basis for 4. Like I
Well,
think
now
4
I
is
just get
good.
curious, right? Yeah, yeah. As
Like
a point of reference. Yeah.
I think 4 like obviously 4 was amazing and then like this is not up there, but it's still very good.
Sure. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, we've only got. I mean, it's for for
4
Leviathan.
days. Yeah,
It is
we
it
got
is
4 more
October
days.
2nd, right? We're getting ready for the launch.
What are you talking about?
Um,
It's October 4th.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. But we are we're getting really close to the launch here, right? And you've obviously had a week with the game. When you dive in, what's the first thing you're going to do with the expansion? Now that you have seen a lot of this stuff, what's the first thing you're going to do? Are you rolling that Spiritborn, going through the campaign, or what's your plan?
Yeah, I think that is the plan. I think as I look on like what I feel about this expansion is that I'm excited to go back and just do it all again, right? Um, sometimes with stuff like this, you would burn yourself out. I as I was sharing, I don't know if we've been talking a while enough. I said I put about 40 hours in during this time period. I did the math, like it's a good chunk of my day. Um, I know there are people who are playing more, but I felt like 40 hours was pretty good with the limited time that I had.
Right.
I want to play more. Uh,
No way.
like the fact that I'm like, hey, I want to go and improve this character that's going to get deleted. Uh, is telling for the state of the game. So yeah, on the 8th, like I'm going to be throwing up. I'm going to be throwing up on a that'd be bad. I'm going to be thrown down on a Spiritborn um right away. Like I can't wait for that.
Okay. So I mean, look, we started kind of this podcast with is it worth your money as the question kind of going into this, and really wanted to dive into some of the individual specifics of this thing. Really, any last thoughts on like anything you want to mention that we didn't get to, or anything that you'd really like to bring up, but before we kind of go into the is it worth it conversation.
I mean, like as I think like we've talked a lot. What we haven't talked about is the new season. So
Yeah.
Season
Whole new
6.
aspect adding on to the expansion on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You get these realm walkers showing up. Uh, you have to kind of coax them to fight you. You have to kill all the monsters around them, and then as they fall down, you kill them, and then you go into the portal that was on top of their head, and you enter into a new realm. You get to it, and again, playing with this concept of what's working for Diablo 4 now, you get to choose the rewards of this realm. Like, I would like boss materials. Boss materials. In other words, boss materials are not this prohibitive thing that I have to live in a helltide or I have to like do nothing but whispers anymore. Like,
Yeah.
you can still do them. It's the most effective way to get that particular material, but it's not prohibited to just that action. I
Right.
can do, these realm walkers. I can do just general stuff and buy them from my mercenaries. I can get them as a reward for Undercity. Like the amount of bosses I killed in this short time period is probably higher than what I did in all of last season, just because that's how many I was able to acquire. Didn't get any mythics. That's okay, but I did get plenty of other stuff. So uh, the new season, in tandem with all the other stuff, is really setting the game up to be what I would argue, well, the best expansion to a Diablo game since Lord of Destruction.
Okay.
And
That's a pretty big sell right there. Yeah.
I would argue that I would say that this and Lord of Destruction, in terms of general altering of the game, feel similar. And I would put it on that level.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So final. I mean, again, like, what are your thoughts as far as is it worth our money? Right. We're about to spend hard-earned, cold cash
Yeah,
on this
40,
game. We definitely
60.
have it all already pre-ordered it already. What do you think?
I mean, I think there has to be some people out there that might be in that boat. I think like with everything that has happened between obviously the changes we saw in the PTR, the new class, the new zone, all of these new features, it's not an expansion. It's a new game. Like
It feels like it. On the
in
outside looking in, I haven't played it, but yeah,
in the interview with Jason last week, you were talking about his book,
great listen
and
by the way. Great listen.
yeah, he's a great guy, great book. In his book, he wrote one of the quotes around Diablo 3 was, when talking with I think it was Pardo to Wilson, you're going to get really good at making a Diablo right when you ship a Diablo. Um, and that's what this feels like, is the team got really good at making a Diablo after they shipped Diablo. And this, with this expansion, is a new Diablo. It just feels so much better. I guess like I want to preface, I fucking hated the PTR.
Mm.
I didn't like it. I didn't like any part of it. I was not a fan. It felt not good for anything. I don't have that feeling. I think, when we did the PTR podcast, I had brought up like, we're missing these pieces that make the game what it will be. We're missing an Undercity. We're missing mercenaries. We're
Mm.
missing the Dark Citadel, and we're missing the new class. And was that impacting? And I don't think it was for Macro and for Lucky. They genuinely love their classes. Um, but it was for me. Like those additions and all these pieces coming together in this harmonious flow make the game so much better. It is
Yeah.
100% worth your time and your money, and it feels so good.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. I mean, it's great to hear. Obviously, right? Like we are a passionate group about our Diablo games. So I'm excited. And look, this season is going to carry us through the holiday season. You know, with all likelihood. You know, so really, really excited to talk more about the seasonal stuff coming up. You know, obviously we'll probably do a whole episode on that stuff once we get stuff in our hands. But super excited, honestly. Still hanging on some of your brain power, like doing mental gymnastics around the campaign stuff, because that's all I'm thinking about right now is how much I want to play that damn campaign. I'm gonna like first playthrough, like headset on, not in Discord, just digesting every music and sound effect and conversation. And I think that's what always gets me super excited about new Diablo releases is just how much more the world continues to expand and grow. And man, I'm super excited. And Spiritborn sounds pretty sick. Sounds like
Really
I might be
is.
living in the Undercity now, which is pretty cool. And all my WoW friends will probably come play that Dark Citadel and see how that goes. So I'm super, super excited, man. Super excited. And I really appreciate you kind of going through that with me because honestly, like, obviously I know we're doing the podcast, but it's a lot of information I'm looking to get too. So I appreciate the courtside seats, as it were.
Well, I appreciate having somebody to just geek out on for a bit. As you brought up sound, uh, and listeners know that I will run as I play Diablo. But I listen to music while I run because, I need some music. Uh, I listened to the game while I was running this week because the sound is amazing. Nahantu, like the sound effects of the Spiritborn, like everything is just crisp. Um, yeah, like I wasn't bothered by hearing. Obviously, you deal with the same thing that any class does. Like I'm out of mana, but
Right.
I can't carry that. Okay, so that sound is less appealing, but all the other sound effects are phenomenal.
Well, and I do recommend anyone listening to this, if you don't play Diablo typically with sound, your first time through the campaign, you should absolutely do that. Like, as someone who has gotten very, very much big into D&D recently, and played a lot of RPGs, like sound is like at least half of the equation of the experience. I mean, it creates the atmosphere for you, not just like the music or the sound effects, also the ambient noise, right? Like there's a lot in there. And Diablo from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 has always killed it with their scores, their soundtracks. And I think they do a fantastic job. And I think honestly, like Diablo 4 has had one of the better soundtracks of all the Diablo games. I think the soundtrack's incredible, and I'm really excited to see what they've added with Vessel because, yeah, I know it's gonna be great. I'm super excited. So sound on.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I think I'm excited. Obviously, I think what's really exciting is to do this podcast, and then we're gonna do just like we did with release and disappear for a little bit so we can all play it. And then we'll come back and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else's reactions.
Mhm.
Because I think that's the one downside is that you don't get that communal reaction. There's no surprises left, and it is super exciting to get an experience like this. But it's also like there is that small part of you like, oh man, like I we're not all going through it at the same time. I don't get to be like, oh, can you believe that? Um,
Right. Don't
but
worry. I'll message you as soon as stuff
as
happens. Yep.
as you should. The other side
As
of
it.
it
Yeah.
for myself that I think there is a refreshing element is I'm also not going to feel pressured to rush. Like this time, I'm just going to go slow. I'm going to do all the side quests that I might have blown off because video game reviewing is hard. I only have so much time. And it kind of feels like work. Like, oh, I gotta keep going, gotta keep going, gotta keep going. I have to, it's like competitive eating. Like this food should taste good, but I need to shovel it in fast, um,
Sure.
so I don't get to enjoy it as much as I might want to. Um, but yeah, so I think that'll be kind of nice to purposely slow down because I'm not going to be rushing for anything.
Yeah. No, that's my intent as well too. The first playthrough, just like it was with Diablo 4, is very slow and methodical and just kind of taking everything in. I'll get to where I'm blasting eventually, especially with the season kicking in and all that stuff. Like I will get there, but my first run through will be slow and steady, right? Taking everything I possibly can. Super excited about it.
No, I'm excited to hear all about it. And then obviously we're gonna get back together. We'll even rope in nine ball and we'll talk about it. We'll talk on the pod about all things Diablo. But in the meantime, I mean, unless you want to say it, you basically hosted today.
Sure. Well, let's close it out as we always do with a moo, moo, moo.
Moo moo moo. No.